Good evening. I'm Derrick Johnson, President and CEO of the NAACP. I'm joined here by our Chairman of the National Board of Directors, Leon Russell. It is a pleasure to be with you all tonight to honor a man who has dedicated his life to our democracy and to civil rights, Mr. Julian Bond.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, these were not merely words to Julian Bond, they were his calling. As many of you know, Julian lived a life of action, not seeking the limelight, only seeking transformative change for our nation. Though it is deeply flawed, he knew our country was worth fighting for. Tonight, we honor his courage, his clarity, his call to conscience.
A young man from Tennessee, Julian Bond envisioned a world where the color of your skin didn't determine where you could sit on a bus, where Emmett Till could thrive, where Black communities could become wealthy and prosperous. During his time, that world did not exist, but Julian believed it could. Barely 20 years old, he was one of the founders of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, commonly known as SNCC, to peacefully protest the exclusion of Black people from the political process, building empowerment that voting must be accessible, wealth must be attainable, and justice must be equal. He recognized that. A rising star for freedom, Bond will go on to be nominated in 1968, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, to be the Vice President of the United States. His only issue, he was only 28 years old. And of course, the Constitution required you to be at least 35, so he withdrew his name.
Now, more than 60 years after Julian and others founded SNCC, America once again finds itself at a crossroads. Our democracy finds itself at a crossroads, and young people, and those young at heart, must again lead the way. Over the last few months, I know that it has been easy to feel hopeless. This nation, one that was built by us, but never intended for us, is drifting further and further away from where it ought to be going. Student debt is plaguing hopes of ever affording a home. Inflation has made it a challenge to just pay rent, buy groceries, and save for retirement. In the face of police brutality, Congress failed to enact the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. With multiple one-in-a-lifetime climate catastrophes, the Trump administration pulled out of the Paris Agreement and has refused disaster relief funds to states that disagree with his politics. And on top of it all, voting rights and free speech are under renewed assault. That's why the NAACP exists. That's why we fight. It's been 116 years since our founding, and we will keep founding as Julian would have fought. In 1998, after decades of tireless grassroots advocacy and organizing, Julian was selected to serve in what he called the most powerful job a Black man can have in America. That job was chairman of the NAACP National Board of Directors. It is my honor and privilege to continue his legacy today.
And I'm sure Julian will be proud. My friends, the road ahead will not be easy. The unfortunate reality is racism and hate has been a function of American society since its inception. It has proven to be far too an effective tool to divide America. The NAACP was founded to address this deeply entrenched hate and illuminate a path forward. In many ways, we have. But what we must understand is that the road to equality is paved with power. And with oligarchs in this society, those who hold wealth hold power. One of the key characteristics of this democratic union is the power of taxpayer and the simple notion that public funds should be used for public good. What we are witnessing now is an attempt to pull the wool over our eyes with constant chaos to steal those funds from the public and line the pockets of billionaires. And they will use every tool at their disposal, from disasters to racism, to do so. But as we've learned over the last 6 decades, we are stronger together. We have faced daunting challenges before, from the violent backlash after the Civil Rights Act, to the fight for fair housing, to the ongoing battle for economic equality. And we have prevailed. Since our founding, we've turned injustice and devastation into mobilization and movement. Whether it was a lunch counter sit-in at our local diner or marching on the nation's capital, our leaders, members, and mentors have galvanized movements that span the globe, ushering in the change needed to propel not only our community, but the world forward. Yet we know that progress is not linear. Since the Civil Rights Movement, we have also heard echoes of the past, from the undoing of protections of voting rights, to suppressing voter turnout by gerrymandering districts, to silence Black voices at the ballot box. We have seen a revival of white supremacy and hate-filled rhetoric emboldened by political figures whose words and actions stoke division. And as our Black brothers and sisters continue to face systemic inequities in healthcare, education, housing, and criminal justice, the question we must ask: will we stand by and watch as history repeat itself, or will we continue to fight for a future of justice and equality?
During his tenure as chair of the NAACP, Julian faced that very question, one that was for him easy to answer. He advanced our mission. He grew our membership. He organized movements that once again pushed America forward. As chair, he led the NAACP into the 21st century. Today, not only does his impact continue to be felt within the walls of our headquarters, it continues to reverberate nationwide, from the roads in Mississippi to the halls of Congress. The path he paved continues to inspire. Following in Julian's footsteps, Julian, who was the first elected to the Georgia House of Representatives at 25, young change makers are running for office all around the country. Following in the footsteps of Julian Bond, students nationwide are organizing voter registration drives to make sure that young people make their voices heard. And following in the footsteps of Julian Bond, America finally elected its first Black president in 2008. And its first Black female vice president only 5 years ago. As the saying goes, the pendulum swings, but progress is unstoppable when the people demand it. And in Julian's name, we demand progress. We know that many Americans are unsure of what to do in this moment to achieve that progress. Many are scared of the repercussions of exercising their First Amendment right. But we cannot allow this moment to reduce us to silence. As one of New York's greatest, the late Toni Morrison, once explained, the very serious function of racism is distraction. In this moment, we cannot afford to be distracted by that darkness. And in the darkness, we have the shining light that is Julian Bond's legacy. Pam, Julian would have reminded us that we should not agonize, we must organize. For Julian, nothing stood in his way of getting into trouble, into good trouble.
So let this celebration today not only honor and remember Julian, but let him inspire us all to commit to leaving this building with plans to make his dream a reality. And as he said, good things don't come to those who wait, they come to those who agitate. It is our responsibility to agitate the system until the system works for us.